The settlement of Gunfire had never been designed for war. Its crystalline domes reflected the twin suns Ophilara Prime, casting rainbow fractals across streets meant for commerce and diplomacy, not bloodshed. But war had found it anyway, as it always did when resources grew scarce and desperation turned neighbors into enemies. Ilara pressed her back against the nursery wall, feeling the reverberations of plasma fire through the reinforced panels. The cubs, 3 of them, barely past their first molt huddled behind her, their obsidian scales still soft and vulnerable. They should have been playing, learning to hunt simulation prey in the training grounds. Instead, they whimpered as another explosion rocked the compound. "It's okay," she whispered, though her voice trembled. "I've got you." The Valerian cubs didn't understand her words. Their species communicated through a complex system of pheromones and subsonic growls that no human larynx could reproduce. But they understood her tone, the way she positioned her fragile human body between them and the door. They understood she was protecting them. Commander Reth's forces were supposed to have secured the perimeter an hour ago. Ilara had watched the transmission cut out mid-sentence, seen the commander's reptilian features twist with frustration before the hologram dissolved into static. Something had gone wrong. The rebel faction had predicted their movements, laid traps within traps. Now she was alone with 3 infants of a species that would grow to be apex predator creatures, whose adult forms could tear through steel plating with their claws. But right now they were just children, terrified children. The door exploded inward. Ilara didn't think. Her body moved on instinct honed from 2 years as a xenobiologist on Valara Prime, countless hours spent studying predator behavior, understanding that the best defense was often making yourself too costly to attack. She spread her arms wide, making herself as large as possible, and screamed. The rebel soldiers froze for half a heartbeat. Humans weren't supposed to be here. This was a Valerian civil war, a dispute over mining rights in territorial waters that had nothing to do with the Terran Research Initiative. But here stood one, a fragile thing of soft skin and breakable bones, positioned between them and their objective. "Move, human!" the lead soldier growled in broken standard. No, the word hung in the recycled air. Behind Ilara, the smallest cub, the one with the distinctive silver patch on her snout pressed against her leg. She could feel the rapid flutter of its twin hearts through her pants. "We don't want to kill you," another rebel said, but his weapon remained raised. "Those cubs are high-ranking bloodline hostages. They're children," Ilara said. Her hands were shaking now, but she kept them spread wide. "I won't let you take them," the lead soldier's translator device clicked. "You're unarmed, unarmored. You understand you'll die?" "Yes." Ilara had always wondered what her last words would be. She'd imagined something profound, perhaps a quote from the old Earth poets her mother loved. Instead, she'd given them a simple affirmation, an acknowledgement of the mathematics of violence. 1 human, 4 armed soldiers, 0 chance of survival. But every second she delayed them was another second for Commander Reth to arrive. Another second for these cubs to live. The first shot took her in the shoulder. Pain exploded across her consciousness, white-hot and all-consuming. Ilara's knees buckled, but she didn't fall. She thought of her mother, of the garden on Earth she'd never see again. She thought of the first time the silver-patched cub had chirped at her in what passed for Valerian laughter. She stayed standing. The second shot hit her abdomen. This time she did fall, but she fell backward, her body creating one final barrier. The cubs shrieked, their distress calls piercing frequencies that made the rebels hesitate. They didn't understand why the human wouldn't move, wouldn't save herself. They didn't understand humans at all. The third shot never came. The wall exploded in a controlled detonation, and Commander Reth's elite guard poured through like an avenging storm. The rebels died quickly, efficiently, without mercy. Valerian justice for those who would harm cubs was swift and absolute. Reth himself crossed the room in 3 powerful strides, his massive form blocking out the emergency lighting. He dropped to his knees beside Ilara, his claws capable of shredding combat armor carefully, impossibly gently, pressing against her wounds. "Medic!" His roar shook the remaining walls. "Medic now!" Ilara tried to speak, but blood filled her mouth. She could feel her consciousness fragmenting, her body systems shutting down in sequence, the medical team would arrive too late. She'd known that the moment she'd chosen to stand. "The cubs?" she managed to whisper. Reth's secondary eyelids flickered grief in his species. "Safe, because of you." "Good." The commander watched the light fade from her eyes. This impossible human who had stood against trained killers for children not her own, not even her species. In Valerian culture, such sacrifice was reserved for bloodkin, for the survival of one's own genetic line. But humans operated on different mathematics. The medical team arrived 17 seconds after Alara's heart stopped. 17 seconds too late, as Reth would note in his official report. 17 seconds that would haunt him for the rest of his long life. The Silver Patch cub who would grow to become Matriarch Silvara, leader of the reformed Valerian Council, never forgot the human who died for her. She commissioned a monument in the heart of the new capital, a statue of a human woman with arms spread wide, 3 cubs sheltered behind her. The inscription, written in both standard and Valerian glyphs, read simply, "She endured gunfire for those not her own. She taught us what humanity means." Commander Reth visited the monument every year on the anniversary, standing in silent vigil. His elite guard had arrived too late. They had failed their primary objective, protect all sentience under Valerian jurisdiction. But Alara hadn't failed. In her final moments, bleeding out on cold floor plating, she'd shown the galaxy what humans were capable of. Not through superior technology or overwhelming firepower, but through the simple, devastating choice to stand when any sane being would run. The rebels had been right about one thing. They hadn't wanted to kill her, but they'd never understood that sometimes humans needed to be killed to be stopped. And that made all the difference.